Welcome back, everybody, to the Energize with Bram podcast. Today, we have somebody really special joining us from overseas. She has made the UK her home. This podcast is designed for your change makers, your business leaders, your entrepreneurs that are really here to create a lasting legacy, make a dent in the universe, do something different out there, and always looking for ways to improve and thrive through mindset hacks and new skills development. So, without being said, everybody, welcome to the show. I'd like for you guys to all cheer and applaud our guest for today, even if it's virtual and even if it's later on. I'd like to introduce you to Lenka Lutonska from Business Energetics. Lenka, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Bram. And it's great to be here.
It's such a pleasure. We actually found you thanks to my other half, who came across you on Facebook. Your energy caught her attention. She started listening in. She started thinking, hang on, Lutonska, that must be something where from my region of the world. My wife is a Slovakian, and so are you.
I am indeed.
Tell us how you went away from Slovakia and ended up in the UK.
I didn't want to follow the traditional path my father and family set for me, which was go to university, study banking and finance, and then settle in the corporate world, find a decent job. You know, the typical story. I had more rebellion inside of me and purpose. I felt since teenage years, my purpose is to be of service to others. So I didn't see myself in the banking and finance. Therefore, I, under excuse of, I'm going to learn English for a few months during summer holidays before university starts, I never went back. So I stayed in London or near London, and that's how I ended up in UK.
That's such a great story. And to fast forward, many years later, you got married, you have three beautiful,
Oh,
you run a business of your own after you had multiple things, which we'll touch on later, but now doing multiple seven figures,
yeah,
coaching.
mainly women. Mainly women, but I appreciate gentlemen coming to our programs because business energetics is really for everyone.
That's exactly right. As a man, I can say I have taken a lot from your first book. I've even recommended it to one of my clients and he loved it. So
Oh,
two
that's
guys
great.
here are vouching for your products and services. Energetic Selling and Marketing is a wonderful book. We'll touch on that one in a moment as well. You have a second book in the making, and this one is called Business Energetics. I'd like to actually go a little bit back into your background and what you've done to be where you are today. Please describe in your own words what that purpose looks like and how your books are perpetuating that.
Thank you for a great question. To me, the purpose looks like when we allow ourselves to express through business, but also other outlets in our life, what is truly waking us up with passion and what is truly in our hearts rather than making ourselves smaller and putting ourselves in boxes because society and parents and everyone around us is expecting us to do or to be or to have. You've got to have a certain status, you've got to have a certain income because you've got to look after your family, and it causes us to go into what I call reactive consciousness. Just do whatever brings results, and that's the part of the old paradigm. Purpose to me is when we really allow ourselves to trust the intelligence of our heart, because that's where our purpose is. To me, that purpose always has been to be of service, to be of a help to other people. I didn't, of course, know in what shape or form it would be, but I just wanted to help others. I had this naive dream to change the world.
I'm
To
glad you did.
person by person, group by group, and so forth. To me, living the purpose when whatever we do doesn't feel just our bank accounts or give us that sense of safety or freedom, but in an equal measure, feel our soul.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that's such an important thing to say these days because it can be very empty. People can live lives of quiet desperation, walking in
Yes.
somebody else's shoes rather than creating their own environment. So I certainly resonate with that. I have a friend that started a career only 12 years later, going back to school just to pursue his life, rather than the one that his dad has also carved out for him. And so he's had multiple different careers since then. What a loss if we don't
Yes.
pursue our passion, right? So I love the fact that you do give people an opportunity to back themselves and empower themselves. I particularly like your angle. And this is me coming from a bit of an old school way of selling. I've been trained by people like Brian Tracy, who's a very old school way of doing, and many people like it. And I think a lot was there from goal setting,
Yes.
logical,
Yeah.
strategic, tactical, all of that. Set your mind, use positive affirmation, but really it's a very mind driven thing. I like how you go back to the heart. The intuition is also, which you talked about in one of your YouTube videos recently. What is that new paradigm shift according to you?
Well, I call it business energetics. And it's really a shift, a global shift of consciousness, which shows up in business and selling as going from more masculine energy into more feminine energy of selling and approaching business. It shows up as going more from trusting our left brain to also leaning into the right brain. And it's about really marrying, not disconnecting ourselves from strategy, action, the masculine, not at all, but rather marrying the empowered masculine principles, because there's a lots of distorted principles and energies to let go of, but marrying the powerful masculine principles and energy with a powerful feminine energy. And that's the sweet spot, which I believe is the future of business, selling, success, and wealth. And that's what I call business energetics.
Beautiful. Could you please describe a little bit more the difference between masculine energy and then the
Sure.
female one so that we really can see what exactly you mean in practical business sense?
Absolutely. These two energies are not gender specific. We all have both masculine and feminine energies. Women typically lead more with feminine energy, and men typically lead with masculine energy on paper, because sometimes it's not, and it can cause a lot of trouble, let's say, in relationships when women are trying to be a stronger man and so forth.
Absolutely.
Having said that, both masculine and feminine energies will have what I call empowered side. It's like a coin. Each one will have some positive side and a negative side. Feminine and masculine energies will have empowered side and a distorted side, meaning masculine energy that is healthy, that is the drive, that is the focus, that is the provider within us. That is the aspect of us which is able to stand tall and wide, even when there is chaos around us. Let's say we're creating changes in our lives or businesses, or assisting changes for our clients, and there is a lot of chaos around. Reorganization of the new order is the masculine within us that stays tall, that stays firm, with the eye on a vision. I know this is going to work out. I know. It's the aspect of us that is brave, that is going into the darkness of the unknown and kills the monster of the unknown, so to speak. It's the internal provider creating that space and presence, security for ourselves. Feminine inside of us is the one that is way more creative. It's the one that is creating the ideas. The masculine perceives. The feminine in us is the nurturer, where we're able to nurture the ideas. The feminine in us is the intuition, where we are able to tap into bank of knowledge and solutions than masculine alone, because the logic is extremely limited in comparison to intuitive intelligence, which is infinite. That's roughly speaking the masculine and feminine energy. And yes, both of them have got distorted sides. So for instance, masculine energy, when we are going into the unhealthy side, and when we learn from our environment to build our lives and businesses on the distorted masculine, it shows up as I've got to succeed no matter what. I'll walk over people. I'll be inauthentic. I'll go against my integrity, but I just got to succeed. Hard work or over reliance on action, action, action. And this is why sometimes we see high level professionals jumping from the roofs of big corporation, because they're so desperate, because they've been building their business and lives on distorted masculine. On the other hand, the distorted feminine can show up as passivity, as something must work out and I'll just wait for that solution, or I'll wait for the universe or God or economy to show up. So staying in the victim mentality, that's just one example. That's in a nutshell what feminine and masculine energies are, and it's the marriage of empowered feminine and masculine energy that is, I believe, the future of business and a greatest success, where we experience fulfillment beyond measure.
I love how you clarified the difference when you said the provider in us with that masculine energy, it's quite logical and limited, whilst the feminine is very unlimited due to its intuition. I really like that because I can certainly resonate with that. As men, we sometimes are a bit dogmatic and so much pursuing goals. At some stage, I think in your book, your first one, you mentioned ask any sales manager how many times their teams have ever hit their quota month after month. And most of them would have to admit that none of them did, because it doesn't work that way. I really like that as a very good starting point, because real life gives feedback whether or not what you're doing makes sense and is worth pursuing. You now talk about this new shift in the next 5 years. This new book of yours, Business Energy, is specifically going to be addressing that. At some stage, you said the old way doesn't feel good and it's hard to sustain business as usual that way. Please walk us through that. What does it look like?
Absolutely. So I call this by me consciousness, meaning where we're just trained, we learned it from society, that we have to rely on logic and action and hard work to achieve our goals. So we empower ourselves and we say, I'm going to set this challenging goal. So we work 10 hours a day, we work 15 hours a day, we learn the strategy, we feed our logical mind. I'm going to try this. Oh, they're doing over there, it works, so I'm going to mimic. And it works. At least to a certain extent, it works for many people for some time. Lots of success has been built on this consciousness. But there is a limit. It's not sustainable, because at some point you realize that I'm getting sicker, that I'm sacrificing my family, my health, my hobbies. I don't even know who I am outside of my business and my work. That is when we're just trained and programmed to believe that success is made by us. Then we start looking for different ways. There must be something more. There must be a different way. So typically over time, we start to opening ourselves up in some way to energy work, the law of attraction, maybe the manifestation, faith. There is something more than our logical mind can comprehend, that greater power within us or outside of us, however we perceive it. We start tapping more into our spirit in different ways. Over time, we then become more of an artist. We go into what I call through me consciousness, when we let that intuition, feminine energy, the greater power, soul, or our higher self, you can call it many names, to work with it and to let that knowledge, those ideas flow through us and work with it to express whatever wants to be expressed. I call it through me consciousness. When we are opening ourselves more to this feminine energy, intuition, we become more like an artist in our businesses and lives.
That's definitely where the passion starts coming in.
Passion, but at the same time, more ease, more flow, but it requires more trust, more unknown. It's not easy to just switch. Oh, I'm no longer going to rely on my action and logic, and I'm just going to trust my intuition and desires and so forth. It's not immediate switch. It's more a process.
But yeah, gradually, that's right. People are habitual. We have habits that we formed over time, both in how we think, how we feel, how we behave, the expectations we have, the belief systems, all of that. You know that very well as an NLP practitioner. As we already started this little journey of the 4 models, the by me, through me, and then there's 2 more.
Of course. So the most dense consciousness, from which it's very difficult to build any level of success, is to me consciousness, where we are perhaps for a period of our our life stuck in a victim mentality. I've been there. Most of us have been there at some points. And that is where we believe that life is happening to us. In my case, I lost a business once to another person because he bankrupted my business. I now cannot be as successful as before. And if only he didn't do that, where could I be now? Projecting our failures and lack of success onto another person, people, or environment is so expensive. Economy, how can one succeed in today's economy? Everything is shifting. We know this as a victim mentality. It's important not to reject our victims. If we do that, then we are not willing to look within ourselves at our hidden ways of how we have that victim consciousness in us. So it's important not to reject our victim because it's also source of, for instance, empathy. It's important to be aware of our victim consciousness. For me, 2 years after I lost my first business, I was still hurting, still complaining. One friend of mine said, Lenka, I'm getting tired of it. Are you not tired of it? Can you not change that story? It was like, reality check, even though I knew about the victim consciousness. That is the victim-based consciousness from which it's extremely difficult, if possible at all, to build any level of success. At some point, we then realize, no, I'm not going to be a victim of my life and business. So we shift ourselves into that by me consciousness, way more empowering way to work and build success. Hard work, determination, focus, masculine, often distorted masculine, let's go. So then we get tired, burned out, divorced, sick, all of those. Maybe before we catch ourselves that things are not good, we really start looking how to shift things. So this is where, to me, real work starts. And we go perhaps quickly or over time, we shift ourselves more into this through me consciousness way of thinking about business and life and approaching the business, and we become more like an artist, working with intuition, working more with feminine energy. What I always say to my clients, I work primarily with women, but it can happen to men as well. We want to be mindful not to reject masculine at this stage, because that's very common story. Because the distorted masculine gave us so much headache and pain. Then as we shift into working more with our intuition, or some people call it universe or soul, higher self, call it what you like, we say, no, I've done the hard work, I've done the action, I'm not doing it anymore. So I'll wait for the universe, and I want to be just in my flow. I reject structure, I reject planning, I reject any healthy masculine traits and structure, because I've been there, and that's not healthy either. So
the other extreme then.
It's essentially, we transfer some level of victim consciousness into this higher level consciousness, into the through me consciousness. So we've got to be aware of that. Then there is even higher, the fourth level of consciousness, which I call me consciousness, where we tap into that awareness, where we realize that my entire life and business is simply reflecting who I am. That I am the center of my universe, and I'm experiencing myself through customers, through people in my life, through friends, through others, and even circumstances. I am experiencing myself. It's a very powerful state of consciousness, because it's here where we can create some dramatical changes and quick changes in a business and life, which often seem to collapse time. Sometimes it would take years to make that level of growth or change, and we can collapse time and create that level of change or growth much quicker. Yes.
Sounds like you have a few quantum physics type inspirations there. Is that something that you looked into?
Oh, definitely, for years and years, especially when I fell down on my face, and in those 2 years of struggle, I had to go there. I had to go into spirit, into metaphysics. I would go there so deep to keep myself sane. So yes, at that time, I wouldn't bring it up to the world, because I was scared that people would not take me seriously, or I wouldn't be professional anymore. But ultimately, it's from that metaphysics and spirit, ambitious businesswoman, that combination, that was the basis of business energetics. So everything is changing. Today, we can really have those conversations that we couldn't have maybe even 10 years ago.
Hey, look, I think it's a very empowering message. And just again, for a quick recap, there is the to me, which is the victim mind. Sounds to me also a bit like the inner child in a way.
Absolutely.
Two then is by me, which is the action and hustle, hustle, hustle. Let's work hard to achieve outcomes, which is very masculine and distorted. Then there's the third one, which is through me, where there's more intuition being leveled up. And the last one is where you are the creator of your own universe and your awareness is spiritually very high. How would you say that you went through that little cycle? What was your journey?
Yes, we all go through that cycle, I believe. When you said that you went through that cycle, I just don't want to give any impression that I'm complete. It's not like I'm living at the highest tempo somewhere at all times, but we go through almost like a spiral. We'll go through these stages again and again as we evolve. But my biggest era of these 4 stages of consciousness was really the making of the business that I love and opening to the level of success and impact and all of that I was dreaming about. It started with my first business when I knew what I knew best at the time. I got myself trained in NLP to the highest level. I opened a business as NLP coach and trainer, and it took me places. I did lots of corporate training, lots of sales training, NLP sales training. I was working. It was wonderful. Then one of my clients, the corporate psychopath, helped bring that business to the ground in a space of 9 months. So that's where the true transformation for me started, because that shifted me straight into victim mentality, to me consciousness for a long time. It shifted me into the dark night of the soul, to real struggle and real suffering. For a while, it was extremely painful. And many legacy builders and leaders of today's world will have gone through a period of that struggle, of course, and I'll turn it into something that serves many other people. Still, at that time, my victim consciousness and inner child and all that pain was very, very active. So in this time, when I got my books, when I went from healer to healer, when I went deep into meditation, into spirit, just to help myself and to stay sane. Or it certainly feels like divine intervention. At one point, when I was in my little garden and still thinking, what does it take to rebuild my business? What does it take to just have success in business? Is something that I love. I've been working so incredibly hard. A question popped to my mind. What would you do if you didn't care what people thought of you? You will be taken seriously or not? Such a powerful question. At that moment, I said I would marry spirituality and business. In the next micro moment, I got my branding message. I got my next offer, or the first offer. It's almost like it was downloaded in the milli moment, like that, when I freed myself from, I've got to be something or do things from certain way. In other words, going from reactive consciousness to creative consciousness. If I could do anything and if I trusted that it will work. It was that moment that shifted me to the next stage. I had nothing to lose. I was brave enough to come out of my spiritual closet. And on the next networking event, I offered some form of spiritual business mastermind. I remember to this day, it was 10 years ago, how the entrepreneurs' eyes, some of them lit up. At that point, I sold out that program within 2 weeks, which was a miracle to me. That was the beginning of my through me consciousness, and I learned to trust my intuition, trust the unseen more, and followed that path. And I'll, if you like, train myself more and more and continue to train myself to actually perceive the world and to live as the center of the universe. From that place, all I perceive is love, and things are so quick, so magical. So that's been my journey.
That last stage seems to be probably 3 and 4 seem to sound like flow and momentum, where things are easy, it's flawless, and it's instant.
Not all the time, because it doesn't matter how evolved we are energetically. It doesn't mean that all we ever experience is ease and flow. It almost can give us this idea of perpetual paradise on earth. And that's not true. We need that contrast. We need both sides of the polarity, negative and positive. Of course, the struggle, the stories we create around things such as losing a client or losing the dear one.
Yep.
Sometimes it's tragedy, sometimes it's loss. Sometimes it's much smaller thing, but still it impacts us. A contract, the one that was so amazing, falls through, whatever it might be. Things happen. They're going to continue happen because it's that polarity of negative and positive energy that can actually help us to evolve and to become so much more creative, stronger, and so forth. But it's how we deal with that negative side absolutely shifts and changes as we allow ourselves to go more into feminine and higher levels of consciousness and so forth.
Love it. Hey, as I was re-listening to your book, because I bought it as an audiobook first, you have chapter 8 and it talks about detachment. I think it's a really important topic to talk about, particularly because if people do goal setting the old way, it's like being so dogmatic about something and pursuing it, pursuing it, pursuing it. And as you said, sometimes use your elbows and do whatever it takes. Please walk us through what detachment can do for people, especially as they are entrepreneurs and business leaders overall, or salespeople.
Sure. Wonderful question. Thank you. There is an aspect of our brain, left brain, where it cannot help but create. And how am I going to get to the outcomes? Linear mind. Let's say you desire to grow your business by 3 times over. You set that intention, you set that goal. We cannot help but predict with our left brain how it's going to happen. We create the business plans, we create the quotas, what I need to do, X, Y, Z way of thinking, which is okay. But when we don't have a flexibility, that's when the trouble starts. Because, for instance, we create this plan for how we're going to triple our sales revenues, and the step 1 doesn't work. And we find something different, it still doesn't work. Lots of people, lots of entrepreneurs, if that one step doesn't work on that way, will assume the whole thing is wrong. Maybe I was wrong. We need to start from the beginning. There's that inflexibility. Whereas what's actually happening is throughout this time, we are still functioning in this limited left brain intelligence, which has got the stuff that we learned. But when it's compared to, let's say, intuition and to more creative thinking, it's primitive. It's like fraction of the fraction of what is available to us. So what detached means is to tap into our intuitive intelligence, and we can go there. I'll happily share a process for how we can strengthen that intuitive intelligence. Tap into that intuitive intelligence and perceive the ideas that actually sound illogical. They often sound like they have nothing to do with the straight linear path. But if we just allow ourselves to be that flexible and trust that the journey to those tripling those sales revenues in this example doesn't have to be linear, but can take us left and pick up something there and right and pick up something there. And that's actually the best way. Absolutely everything changes. So that's just one example, and it's been proven beyond doubt through various studies. For instance, I mentioned one study in the book where it was established that the biggest minds and biggest business modules attribute 80% of their success to their intuition. The ideas that made them a ton of money, ton of success, actually came as a random, sometimes random ideas or completely wild ideas, or they appeared from the deep mind. They attribute 80% of their success to their intuition. We really want to be flexible and do know that our left brain always will want to predict, always will want to create linear scenarios, but there is this whole other world of intelligence, intuitive intelligence available to us. Detachment is important in selling because our potential clients are becoming more energetically this. We grow in consciousness globally, not just individually. So our clients will feel intuitively, energetically more and more what's the real thing.
Authenticity, the genuine.
Subtle feeling. So there is the fakery and inauthenticity, and I just want to sell is working less and less. For instance, I remember when I was selling from a place of genuine need, I needed money to pay the bills. And I would be sitting there really thinking, I've got to make this sale. I really got to make this sale. And I'm hoping that the client will see that I can help them. The client is going to feel it. It's a repeller. That's attachment. I've got to make it sell. I've got to prove. That's attachment. So it's not easy, but I had to train myself. I just gotta trust that I cannot lose the right client and cannot gain the client that is not right for me at this moment. I'm going to direct my attention not on me and my needs and desires, but on what the client really needs. Just be there for them. And that presence, that detachment changes the whole game. And you must know it more than me. You teach sales. This mindset can create a lot more sales than the one where we make it about us consciously or unconsciously.
It's a lot more attractive to buy from somebody who's got your best interest at heart rather than their own. I really loved chapter 8. The client I referred to, the first thing he brought up was chapter 8. This is really interesting that both of us, two gentlemen, thought really highly of that one because it brought a lot of value to us. So anyway, you mentioned intuition, and I would imagine that a lot of people here that are very intuitive in nature would resonate with your story. But I also remember that you clearly distinguish intuition from gut feeling. And you have a very good way to actually explain through feeling which one is what. Please.
Yes. So gut feeling is our trained reaction. As we go through life, we are exposed to various circumstances and situations, and we make decisions about them, and we learn what works, what doesn't. So we create various beliefs that support us, but also beliefs that do not support us, limiting beliefs. It's our instinctual, this is danger. It's that secondary fear that comes from the danger. That's what the gut feeling is. Intuition is connected to our higher mind, or you can call it soul or higher self. That's the aspect of ourselves that creates the ideas. You can be that, you can do that, you can expand your company, you can create bigger impact. When we are listening to our desires, when we are following our intuition, it feels expansive. It always will tell us where to go. Even where not to go, it will feel expansive or neutral. Gut feeling, that is not always accurate. In fact, oftentimes, if we rely on our gut feeling, we will talk ourselves out of the best intuitive ideas, will give us contraction in the body, like don't go there. So it's worthwhile to stop and pause and ask ourselves, why do I have this feeling? Because it just might be that in past I was burned and I created this belief that is going to be like that all the time, and I carry this pattern. So this pattern will always give me this gut feeling, don't go there. But we might, because of that, not use or not notice plenty of incredible opportunities, expanding opportunities, money-making opportunities, because we experienced something in the past. So that's the distinction between the gut feeling and intuition. Intuition always gives us this expansive feeling or neutral feeling, and it's fast. It's very, very fast. Oftentimes intuition comes, it gives you this expansive feeling. Yes, this is the way, this is the next step, this is my next investment, this is the next strategy, even though it might be wild. And then we start to think about it. And then over time, or maybe even sometimes quite quickly, but hold on, it's a little dangerous. And we start to get this gut feeling, or, this various fear or whatever it might be in our gut, that might not be a good idea. But
So the gut feeling is mainly driven by fear?
Oftentimes, yes.
It's interesting because one thing I notice in the work we do with many business owners, executives, and even recruiters is that at the selection stage of a candidate for a role, gut feel is certainly very often used. If we listen to you, you could question that.
It might also be about the way we frame things, so what they may call gut, they may actually mean intuition. Yes. It
Okay.
just might be that. Yes.
I like that. That's a good point. Point taken. You mentioned that there's something you wanted to share with us that is practical that people could take home as to what to do. What are the steps, so to speak?
I will share a 4-step process for increasing the intuitive intelligence and getting it aligned, our intuition, with the level of success we desire, so that we can really, really be open and receptive to those best money-making ideas, success-making ideas, the intuitive ideas. This process changed my life.
Is that the 4 A's?
Yes, it's 4 A's process or 4-step process. It can take 10 minutes, it can take 15 minutes. The point is, make time every day, however much you can, to really work with your intuition. This is how you enhance it, and this is how you become a way more intuitive leader, salesperson, and so forth. So the first part of the process is, I call it address, meaning you clear your energy field, you bring up consciously any fear, any doubt, any negative energy that may be lingering in you. So sometimes we wake up with great feelings, sometimes we wake up with stress, worry, doubt, and so forth. So the point is, here we're not going to be suppressing anything or ignore it. No, we clear that energy, we address that negative energy. So I'll just ask myself, okay, fears, doubts, any negative energy come up. And I want to be specific. I want to know specifically what they say. So let's say I've got too much to do and it gives me stress, or I'm really worried about how this sales meeting will go. So whatever it is that's coming up, I want to be specific about it. And when I have that specificity, I will tell myself, okay, I recognize this fear, this doubt, this worry for what it is. It's not true, it's energy. It's simply energy interacting with my energy. I acknowledge you, I see you, and I release you. So I imagine in my mind, perhaps, that the doubt is just leaving me, or it becomes a balloon that bursts. We essentially address the negative energy. We clear the negative energy by being conscious about it, by being aware that not everything we feel is true. It's just energy. Sometimes it's just breathing those doubts out, but we clear our space. We create the space for the most potent intuitive guidance to drop in. The next step then is align, meaning that we align our intuitive thinking and our energy with the greatest level of success we can perceive. When I've trained myself to do this every day, I would literally put my stopwatch for 3 minutes, close my eyes, and imagine the greatest level of success I could. And if you can imagine it as it's happening now, not in the future, that's the bonus. The most important thing here is to allow ourselves to feel the energy of that success, to feel it in our body. What we're doing here is we're priming our intuition to give us the most potent ideas, because here's the thing. Our intuitive guide, our inner guidance always matches our frequency or our energy. We can get what feels like inner guidance or intuition make us even more worried or broke or stressed, because if we are stressed or worried or broke or in place of need, and we are looking for a solution, like what do I need to do, what do I need to do, we may get idea what may even feel like intuitive idea, but it will always match our energy. So if we apply that idea, like, how do I fix this? That will actually give us more need, more desperation, more lack.
It just perpetuates. Yeah.
Exactly, perpetuates. So with these first 2 steps, we'll clear that negativity from our field and align our energy with the highest level of success. So whatever ideas we're getting from that place are going to be extremely potent. So we'll get self to the greatest level of success consciousness. And then we're going to be listening. This is the point where we are going to close our eyes and accept what comes to us. At this point, I would put my stopwatch for the next 3 minutes and ask myself a question such as, what is my part in this success? What is my part in this? Not to necessarily make it happen, not to be that by me consciousness, but rather to express this level of success, version of through me. So what's my part in this? So I just hold this question and I start getting the idea. So I start accepting these ideas as this is intuition speaking through me. And sometimes in those 3 minutes, I'll get plenty of ideas. Sometimes I get ideas that make complete sense. Sometimes I get ideas that make zero sense. Sometimes I get ideas that I already know, and that's fine. I take everything as it's given to me. I'm developing trust with my intuitive guidance here. Okay? So that's the first step. And the first one is anchor, meaning that we've got to embody this. We actually got to do this. So I'll go through the list and I'll pick at least one thing. Doesn't have to be all, but at least one thing for today that I'm actually going to do. And ideally, it will be a thing that I know is aligned with that greatest level of success. But you know what? Makes me uncomfortable. This is where the little bit of hardship, a little bit of pressure comes in. Because in this way, I'm expanding my nervous system, my comfort zone, my subconscious mind. And I'm actually growing into the leader I'm meant to be. This collapsing timeline.
I like it.
If I pick up things that are easy, we're still functioning in our comfort zone. If I go after things, I absolutely know has been given to me. It maybe doesn't make full sense, or it really makes me uncomfortable because I've got to do something new, or I've got to be bold, or whatever it might be. This is how we embody and express energy through us. So that's what I call anchor. Do it today. This is how you make that 4-step process incredibly potent, and over time your intuition will be flowing just like that. You will become a lot more powerful leader because you'll just go, you expand yourself more quickly, because I believe that, and I think this is common sense, that a business can never outgrown the people people we are.
Exactly. You got to be the leader before things happen around
Yes,
you. So
absolutely.
from the inside out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Great. So just looking back at the 4 steps, the first one is called affirm.
Address negative energy. Yes.
Second one is
align your energy with the greatest level of accept. The third one is accept, as in listen to the intuition. And the fourth one is anchor, or if you like, embody. So this is the action part.
beautiful.
We could call it action. Yes.
Beautiful. I love the steps. I've actually practiced it as well. And as you say, you got to do it all the time to get really good at it and for it to develop and grow. Great stuff. At this point in time, I feel very compelled to touch on that little thing that I said. I've got a quirky question that I want to ask you, but I just think it's such a fun name that you have come up with. Tell us about your
Money Honey. Brilliant. Well, Money Honey, I can't remember why I gave money name Honey, but the point is, I used to be very, very broke entrepreneur and it bothered me. And as part of stepping into this business energetics and marrying strategy with energy, I decided to work my money consciousness. How do I apply myself on the topic of money? Because money is a neutral energy and it also actually reflects how we do. Instead of treating money as something physical, I started to treat it as a living being, living energy. So I would talk to my money honey. I would be coached by my money honey. I would sometimes ask to be reassured by my money honey. What I was actually doing, I was tapping into my divine or empowered masculine energy,
the provider,
which is inside of all of us. I gave him characteristics that were serving me and now serve many of my clients. They're practicing it this way in many ways, such as this money honey or this divine masculine is deeply loving, provider, access to the intuition, connected to all there is. I would talk to my money honey like, help me here. What do I need to do here? Or help me, do it with me, do it for me. So developing trust and so forth. So that is money honey. It's my money consciousness, if you like.
Love it. And you said at one stage, I actually have two marriages. One,
Yes,
I'm married to Thomas, and one is I'm married to my money honey.
yes,
To my sweet money
yes.
honey. Yeah.
I said it jokingly, but yes, this is the relationship, my inner divine masculine. Absolutely.
I love it. When I thought it just made me giggle. I thought this is such a great term. I love it. I think we're going to wrap up the podcast, and obviously people can find you online. So just briefly tell us, and we'll make sure that all of those website links are embedded as part of the podcast.
Thanks so much. Well, my website, and I have got YouTube channel, which is small but growing, where I spread loads of wisdom around business energetics. It's also Lenka Lutonska on YouTube. Yes.
You have a great YouTube channel, lots of great content on there, highly recommended. Obviously, people might say, hey, what could I do with Lenka potentially? Well, there's your books, you got ready, second one in the making, soon to be released. You got your global summits, your retreats, other sorts of events, online academy. Yeah,
Yes, all of that. If anyone is interested, you can read about it on the website, lenkalutonska.com. The first step is the book, Energetic Selling and Marketing, and Business Energetics when it comes out. This is the life work of Business Energetic distilled, introduction to it, very powerful introduction. So that's a brilliant first step to lose yourself in the limitless power of business energetics.
As you are a very aligned person, very spiritual, very intuitive, what's the thought that comes to you now to leave people with as the last thought of this podcast?
Learn, train yourself to believe in unseen more than seen.
Love that.
What if I started to believe in unseen, let's say in desires of my heart, in the vision, more than results I see now, more than whatever is happening around me?
Beautiful. Can you have? What change can you make? What legacy can you build? I love it. Wonderful. Hey, it's been a pleasure. I want to sincerely thank you from the heart for coming along on the show. And I'm sure that our listeners and watchers will get great value from it. So for now, I will say thank you for joining the show. We look forward to seeing you in another episode. God bless.
Thank you.